right. So now my relative, brother from another mother, pastor is going to come and bring up a word here from John chapter 3. If you want to go ahead and turn over there as we've been looking at the writings of the Apostle John. He's going to continue today. You know, last week we talked about love. The first week we talked about love. Last week we talked about truth. And today Austin's going to be preaching about faithfulness. So do it too, buddy.
Thank you. All right. Well, good morning. Nice. You guys are active this morning. I like it. I don't know if we give you as much places to feedback as Jeremiah does, but we'll give it a go. All right. I am excited. Thank you guys for the prayers. We cherish them, and they're valuable to us. In your prayer source, pray for naps. We have 2 under 3, and naps are precious. Also for the adults. But it's such a blessing to be here and be able to share. Watching that video, we're going to be talking about a little bit with faithfulness today, like Jeremiah said. But it's so important to hold on to the reality that when we give, we partner with something bigger than ourselves. When we give to the local church, when we give to individuals, when we partner with organizations like the Samaritan's Purse and the Operation Christmas Child, we actually begin to take part in that ministry that's happening. And we begin to fulfill that great commission that God's called us to do, to go into the world and make disciples and to share all that we've learned with other people. So thank you guys for doing that. I think we'll get 200 boxes and be like, we should have got more, and that'll be amazing. So thank you guys for that. Like Jeremiah said, we talked about truth and we talked about love. And those are, pretty important things in life. And then when they're brought together under the context of God, and really just in any context, when we have love and we have truth and we work together, we see that it creates a faithfulness in people. And, that love is this covenant connection in life. It is the next step in a relationship. You know it's serious when the L word comes out. Lunch. No, I'm kidding. Yes. But love. Sorry. All right, love. All right. We got to remember, I got to stay focused. I have a goal, and it's not to do circles around this round table. But that's my goal. So you guys know you can help keep me honest on that. But seriously, love, right? In a relationship, when the L word comes out, when someone says, I love you, 2 things happen. The relationship continues or it ends. It may not end there, but it is on the death rattle to nowhere if that is not reciprocated, right? Ever? Like, you think about like high school and the relationships that happen, and like, we're quick to say, I love you when we get that infatuation when we're younger, and then we realize as we get older, as more of those relationships come and they go. Not all of them. Some people have found amazing relationships, and then they make a commitment to that for their whole life, and they're there, and that is amazing examples of faithfulness. But if you're like me, you've had a lot of times where you said, I love you, and then you found someone else you love more, or you think you might want to see if you do. Like, there's reality, like there's something where like we say it because we feel something, but then we don't connect the covenant, a commitment to it and build it. But when we make that covenant commitment in love and then tie it to the truth of God, we begin to be faithful. So I want to pray, and then we're going to get going. Let's bow our heads. God, thank you for this day, for a chance to dive into your word, for giving us this letter. Though it is short, it is packed full of truth that can help our lives. God, I pray today that as I begin to share and we begin to read your word, that you would move, that your truth would be front, that your spirit would have his will done today, that we would grow closer to you because of this moment in our lives. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. I want to give you guys a little bit of encouragement. Are you ready? You're going to feel better after this. You are faithful. Do you know that? You are faithful people. And I was thinking about it. I asked people what faithfulness meant and or who they thought was faithful. And none of them said me. Not like me individually, but they didn't say themselves. They didn't name, they're like, I'm faithful, right? They were like, I think about this person, this relationship, or this generation, right? We had this idea of what faithfulness looks like. But I guarantee I can prove that you are a faithful person, even if you don't think so. Because you have been doing things your whole life without fail. Like, even if I have to break it down very simple, who's here has ever quit breathing? How about eating? No? See? Faithful in two things. We could go further, because when you breathe and when you eat, you also do something else. I'll just let you use your imagination. Right? Right. They wrote a book on it. It's okay. This should not be a surprise. Right? But seriously, like, you are faithful. You are good at doing things. You can be faithful at being inconsistent. You can be faithfully inconsistent. See, look at, you guys are amazing. Faithful people. Now, all you have to do is redirect that faithfulness into something productive, and you got a winner. So if you've been inconsistent, just switch to being consistent. You've been doing that really well. I know you can do the other good better. I know it. All right. Everyone is faithful at something. Like beyond breathing and eating and all the other things we do without fail. Like all of you, who has not regularly gotten dressed? You're all wearing clothes. You faithfully clothe yourself. Thankfully, you're faithfully. Thanks. All right, so everyone's faithful at something. A Christian is first faithful to Jesus Christ. Our faithfulness comes first to Jesus Christ, and then out of that faithfulness to the love of God and the truth of Jesus, we begin to be able to be faithful in every other area of our life. Yes. So we're going to read 3 John. You are going to read one whole book of the Bible today. It's only 15 verses, so don't get scared. Right? This is one of those ones. It's 3 John, Jude. These are the ones like you can accomplish this while you're being faithful on that third object of faithfulness that everyone does. Yep. Verse 1. It says this. This letter is from John the elder. I'm writing to Gaius, my dear friend, whom I love in the truth. Dear friend, I hope all is well with you, and that you are as healthy in body as you are strong in spirit. Some of the traveling teachers recently returned and made me very happy by telling me about your faithfulness and that you are living according to the truth. I could have no greater joy than to hear that my children are following the truth. Dear friends, you are being faithful to God when you care for the traveling teachers who pass through, even though they are strangers to you. They have told the church here of your loving friendship. Please continue providing for such teachers in a manner that pleases God. For they are traveling for the Lord, and they accept nothing from people who are not believers. So we ourselves should support them so that we can be their partners as they teach the truth. I wrote to the church about this, but Diotrephes, who loves to be the leader, refuses to have anything to do with us. When I come, I will report something of the things he is doing and the evil accusations he's making against us. Not only does he refuse to welcome the traveling teachers, he also tells others not to help them. And when they do help, he puts them out of the church. Dear friends, don't let this bad example influence you. Follow only what is good. Remember that those who do good prove that they are God's children, and those who do evil prove that they do not know God. Everyone speaks highly of Demetrius, as does the truth itself. We ourselves can say the same for him, and you know we speak the truth. I have much more to say to you, but I don't want to write it with a pen and ink, for I hope to see you soon, and then we'll talk face to face. Peace be with you. Your friends here send you their greetings. Please give my personal greetings to each of our friends there. So today, the big idea of what we're talking about is that faithfulness is a life worth living. Amen. It is a valuable life if you determine to be a faithful person. You will have a return and a happiness in your life just from being faithful. And I looked it up on what it means, and you probably won't be surprised by the meaning. But faithfulness means to be loyal, to be consistent, and to be steadfast. And then the second definition, which I found so applicable for today, is that faithfulness means to be true to the facts or to the original. Right? So we have like any brand loyalists around? Anyone's faithful to something? No? It's not as much like... All right, I'll move on. There's the original, the first thing that happened, right? So we as Christians are faithful to the truth of God and to Him as the original person. As I was preparing this, I began to think about faithfulness and people that I could list as being faithful. And there was one couple that came to mind from my life that I have, and it was... a couple that I grew up knowing, and their names were Frank and Dean Graber, and they were married for 67 years. They were a couple. They have kids that are in ministry, and they 67 years. I was like, wow, that's like longer than the life expectancy 100 years ago. So I was like, they were married longer than most people expected to live, almost in the time that they lived. Like, that's impressive. But then see, my parents, I grew up in California, and they planted a church in 1989 after pastoring a smaller church. God put in their heart to move to the Sacramento area, and they planted in 1989. And Frank and Dean were one of those first couples that came and were a part of the church. And then they were there for the rest of their life. For 22 years, Dean was there until she passed. And she could no longer be a part of church, and she moved her address from Sacramento to heaven. And then Frank continued for another 2 years, and so until he passed away, and they were faithful to the place that God had planted them. They were faithful to the ministry and the calling that God on their life. They were faithful to each other and their children and their grandchildren. And I actually am friends, their grandchildren are around my age, and I'm friends with one of them. He's a pastor, a youth pastor in Tennessee at Vertical Church, and just doing amazing things on seeing the next generation influenced because of this one couple in California's faithfulness. People around the nation are being influenced. And that is so cool to see. And so as I thought about that, we all have someone in our lives that is faithful, whether it's a parent. And I think about parents and their faithfulness. And a real test to know if a parent is faithful is to know if their children make it through adolescence. Like, if they make it through adolescence, they're faithful because they didn't leave them somewhere. They continue to love and support them. If our kids become functioning, successful members of society, they have had faithful parents. And then there are some of us that maybe didn't have faithful parents, right? But we probably had a faithful friend. We probably had a 2 a.m, hop in a Jeep, run a red light, jump in a situation, I don't know what's happening type of friend. Right? I've been that type of friend. I've needed that type of friend. And that type of friend is someone who's faithful. No matter what I'm doing, no matter what, right? They're going to be with me. I don't know if it's the right age for me, but there's that ride or die friend, right? There's that, we're just whatever we're getting into, and it's usually there's some people who would not do mischief, and for some reason there's always a friend that gets into stuff, and you're the die friend in that equation. How did I get on this ride? Well, we're here, and it's not stopping, so let's go, right? I was obviously always the ride in the equation. I'm joking. My friends were probably, no, you were the die, getting us in trouble. But as we do that, there's this element of faithfulness that is so important to our lives. And when we realize those people in our lives, they're important. The Bible actually says that friends will stick closer than brothers. While family is important, it's the very first institute that God created. It's not exclusive to blood. A friend is someone that sticks closer than a brother. No matter what, they are there to be with you. All right, I have a few points, and I'm going to try. Oh, yes. First service, I got to my points, and I was out of time. You guys are lucky. We are on time. First point, we got like 5 things for faithfulness, all right? These are the takeaways that you'll have to be able to help building a faithful life, to execute faithfulness in our life. The first one, a faithful person is healthy. We see it in verse number 2 of 3 John chapter 1. It says, "Dear friends, I hope all is well with you and that you are as healthy in body as you are strong in spirit." See, John connects the body and the spirit together. In Hebrew, they didn't think about it as separate parts. They thought about it as the whole person, spirit, soul, and body. They were connected. The physical affected the spiritual, affected the emotional and the mental. So as a person, as we become healthy physically, I'm able to become healthier spiritually. And as I become healthy spiritually, I want to become healthier physically. And I want to become more healthy mentally, because when I'm healthy, I'm able to be more effective. I'm able to do things I couldn't. I can't go and help someone if I can't get out of the house. I can't have a conversation when someone needs it if I have no more mental capacity because I'm drained, right? I can't give someone godly advice if I don't have any godly advice inside of me. So as I grow in health, I'm able to be more effective with people. This is why it's so important to work on you. You want to change your environment, you want to fix a situation, grow personally, become healthy. If I become healthy, then I'm able to make the choices to be faithful to a situation because I have the strength emotionally, physically, and spiritually to accomplish the decision that I make. Secondly, with being healthy, as friends, we should be praying and encouraging one another to become healthy. You know that John actually does that at the beginning of the verse, and at the end, he opens with a prayer. "I pray that in all respects you may prosper and be in good health, just as your soul prospers." And then he ends in verse 13, 14, and 15 with the prayer over his friends, over the people who are in ministry with him. And so as we do that, if we grab a hold of those prayers, and we begin to pray for people, that prayer begins to change not only the situation, I'm beginning to speak life into a situation, but it also begins to change me. You know, I can't pray for someone else without changing how I feel about them. If I believe that if I'm praying for God to do something and work and for them to prosper and be healthy, if I'm seeking God for something, the next thing you know, God starts to work in me. How can I come alongside them and help in that journey? That means, well, I might have to change something to be healthier. How can I support them? Like, it's not really helpful if someone's eating a salad and I'm eating a double cheeseburger with Swiss and barbecue sauce and grilled onions and jalapenos. Who wants to go to Five Guys afterwards? Because that's my order. Cajun fries, right? Double. Well, y'all need to pray for each other, right? We'll get off that train. Point number 2, faithful people are consistent. They continue in what they're doing. You know, we are either faithful at being consistent or we are faithful at being inconsistent. It's so easy. You are faithful at something. Verse 4 says, I could have no greater joy than to hear that my children are following the truth. They're continuing in the truth. You know, and last week, Jeremiah and Corey did this amazing job talking about truth. And we were talking, Jeremiah and I were talking this morning, and we both realized that as we were preparing for Sunday, we thought the other person should be preaching our sermon. Jeremiah was like preparing, he was like, I think Austin should be talking about truth. And then like, I was preparing this, I was like, I think I should be talking about truth. But I had to talk about faithfulness because it was a week ago. But they did such a great job of composing what God's truth is and the importance in our life. And guess what? That is the measure of everything in our life. Yes. Nothing else matters. My opinions are second. And we'll get to that in a minute because I can't can't go out of order on my points. I want to so bad. See, I'm remaining committed. It's one of our points for faithfulness, right? We're committed. I'm sticking to what I wrote. But see, as we come into truth, we hold to the truth that God gave us. I put my opinions and my preferences aside to line underneath the person that I am submitted to. And if I believe that God is the original, that he is the author and the finisher of my faith, that he has created all things, that in him is all things, that in John says in 14 that he is the life and truth, then his life and his truth is the truth across. Anything that is contrary to the truth of God is a lie. And so anything that I believe sets me up for failure if it doesn't align with God's truth. All right. So point number 3. Faithful people are trustworthy. And there's so much in here about being trustworthy. It is amazing. If you want to look at, there's 2 examples of 2 people, right? There's a guy that shall not be named, the name that shall not be named, Diotrephes, right? He's like, I have a lot to say about this guy, but I'm going to do it in person, which is another point. But, right? Don't talk bad about people behind their backs. Do it to their face. And then you have Demetrius, right? Yeah. And he's like, this guy is good. He exemplifies God's truth, right? So, what's our point? Trustworthy. How do you be trustworthy? How do you get someone's trust? How do you build trust? Be trustworthy. Like, don't give people reasons to doubt. In the 90s, it would be don't be shady, right? There's whole songs about shadiness. Don't do it. It's bad. Sit down. So seriously though, trust. How do I, if I leave no reason for doubt, then I have no worry about whether someone will trust me or not. The other part of trust is follow through. If I say I'm going to do something, I follow through with what I'm going to do. I don't have to wonder if they're going to do what they're going to do. That's trust. And so we are called to be trustworthy, because when I'm trustworthy, I do what I say. And when I do what I say, I'm being faithful in my situation. The person that's in the relationship with me is faithful back because they don't have to worry about if I'm going to do what I'm going to say. Okay. Point number 4. Faithful people are committed. This is where I was talking about before. I didn't want to jump, but it's good. So like he says in verse 9, I wrote to the church about this, but Diotrephes, who loves to be the leader, refuses to have anything to do with us. He wasn't committed to the truth of God. He was committed to himself. He was very faithful to Diotrephes, right? I need to pick a different name for that dude. Right? Seriously. But seriously, like he was committed to something, but he wasn't committed to the truth. The truth, see, in this, it actually says that we are called to judge people. The one thing we have to judge anyone by is the truth of God. The nature of God. The things that, I've had this Bible for almost 20 years. And it has gone with me and it has been constant. And the reason it's here is because I have it and it shows me the nature of God. I never have to know or never have to wonder what God is like when I'm in the Word, because it constantly shows me God's nature. The most valuable thing you get out of reading the Word of God is you get to know who God is. Like it says that He will never fail us, right? I have a scripture in here that said that God is faithful to finish the work that He started in us by the return of Jesus Christ. Who said, I'm going to give you peace. He's going to give me peace. Like the nature of God is found in here, and by knowing this, I know the truth that I measure others by, right? If we're supposed to lead, it says that Christians will be known by their love. So if I get to someone and I'm interacting and they are not loving, it says that then Christ is not in them and they are not one of us. Like if you are not a loving person, there's a good chance your salvation is in question. And that's not like me telling you like you're not a good Christian. That's God saying that the byproduct of me in your life is that you become more loving. Like, and so it's not a my opinion. Like, if it was up to me, we would all be there, right? I'm a people person. It's true. It's not just my truth. It is, no, I'm kidding. I want it to be true. I like people. But you see, he's committed. Faithfulness is a commitment. It's this choice that we make in our life to be faithful. We choose in a moment. But the problem is right now in our lives, a lot of time what we see in society is that we want the results of faithfulness before we've had the time to develop faithful lives. Like we want the life that we grew up with underneath the covering of our parents before we put the work and consistency and choices to develop the life and build the life and the bank account and the house and the cars that our parents got to live with. Right? Any parent who has kids should be like, hey man, get a job. Stop spending money. Stop spending my money. Right, you don't have to do that. I'll do that. But the truth is, like, if we take time, faithfulness is like a tree, right? I know we're heading into fall, right? We just had apple harvest. How many know when all these orchards started, they weren't full of big trees? Like, there used to be a time when there were no trees there because they were seeds. And then what happens is faithfulness is planted in a decision. See, faithfulness it's not hard to be faithful. It's not hard to start being faithful. Faithfulness starts at that first decision. When I make a choice to choose between being faithful or being dishonest. When I make that choice, I then begin to take that first step of faithfulness. And it's walked out over a lifetime of choices. See, God actually tells us that there's a choice before us, blessing or cursing, life or death. And then he tells us, choose life. It's better. So if we know the nature of God, if I know the truth of God, and I begin to act in love, I make a choice placed in front of me. I don't worry about the outcome of where I want to wind up. I worry about the choice that's right in front of me. Because we all, how many have like one decision for the rest of the day? Anyone? You only have to make one decision. Right? You're going to have to choose to stand up. You're going to have to choose to leave the building. You have to choose to get in the car. You have to choose to go home. You're going to have to choose to feed yourself. If you have kids, you got to get them. Please get them out of the back. Right? Make that, be faithful to pick up. I'm kidding. You guys are amazing. It's like you're here and then they're gone. I'm like, what happened? Like we are faithful. Like I've never come in Monday morning and you all were still here. You could. But that's like a decision, right? We make these choices, and each one, there's a choice. Every decision I make is either bringing me closer to or further away from God. I'm either taking a step towards heaven or towards hell. Like, and that's a dramatic example, right? It's not like I'm this way, no, I'm this way, no. Like, we're not doing circles, but it's a slow drift. It's just like faithfulness. You know what? Like, going to jail for embezzlement doesn't start day one. It starts with one decision to move a number, change a decimal point, right? It starts with one decision and then it's built on. And maybe I get away with it once and then I do it again. I get a little more risky, right? It probably starts with taking a stapler home. Like I get one thing, right? And then I build on it. And then affairs don't start with getting a hotel room, and they build off of a choice of a relationship of whether or not I'm choosing faithfulness or commitment and it starts like really, really simple, like listening or choosing not to listen, right? Meeting the simple needs of my partner over meeting my personal needs. Like that decision. If you put your partner's needs ahead of yours, I can promise you, you will not have a desire to have an affair because your partner will take such good care of you, you will want no one else. Hands down. Because we all want someone to love us and take care of us and put us first. All we're looking for is to be wanted. And so if I put someone first, I want to be wanted. And when I'm wanted, I want to do things back. I want to love in return. And it's the same with God. If I put God first, if I love God the way that he loves me, where he laid his whole life down, if I'm just faithful to God through that love, then I have the result of his faithfulness back to me. Amen. All right, the last point is faithful people are humble. In the last verse, Paul, or I always want to say Paul, like it's a default. If you say Paul, you're right 75% of the time in the New Testament. We are in the book of John, and it started the first 5 words with "this is John." So I should know this is John. All right. John literally writes and closes out the verse talking about and more concerned about other people than himself. He's bragging about them. He's thinking about them before him. Then he's railing on the dude who's thinking about himself more. The proud guy in this story, it's like he's not getting like a verbal warning. He's getting a visit from the district office. Right? John's saying, I'm coming and I have a lot to say. But one, I'm not going to write it out and just post it everywhere. There are some things that need to be said one-on-one and face-to-face. And that takes restraint. But he was faithful, one, to the position of Diotrephes, who was in a position of leadership. He was faithful and respectful of that position enough to go one-on-one and not talk to the people that were with him or around him. He didn't go behind his back. He said, guys, use the example of what is good. And go there. Faithfulness is choosing what is good. And then, you see, I think part of the reason that's pointed out is that you have to be humble because the opposite is pride. When I am proud, I cannot be faithful because I cannot put someone above myself. Because I'm right. And when a proud person puts their needs first. Whereas a humble person doesn't, it's not that they don't know they have needs or want their needs met or even get their needs met. They just work to meet the other people's needs. And the amazing thing is in a relationship, when I work to meet the other person's needs, my needs get met because that other person then wants to return and give and meet the needs that I have. How much more does the Heavenly Father, who has everything to offer us, want us to meet his needs when he simply says, worship me, follow me, choose life, make a decision to be humble, to be committed, to be faithful to the life that I've called you to. In Psalms 36, can you put it on the screen? And I think it's 25. Gosh, 37:25. It says, once I was young and now I'm old and I've never seen the godly abandoned or their children begging for bread. The decision to be faithful to God produces a lifetime of provision. Of a God wanting to pour into your life. But there's this thing called consequences and free will. Like every action has an equal and opposite reaction. We learned that in school. And the same is true spiritually. And God has placed man in the authority in the earth. And he says, I will move through men. And if you allow me, I will work in your life. If you remain righteous, if you remain faithful to me, I will move in your life. So as we close, I want us to just, I want to ask 2 questions and then pray with us. And if you would, we can go and stand to your feet. You see in Proverbs 11:2 it says, with the humble is wisdom. And faithfulness leads to a life of making a choice to follow God. To say, I believe that the truth, that what you say is true, and that I will live in the love that you have for me, that I will exemplify the love that you've given in my life and share it with others. And so today I want to pray over you and with you. And if this is you, if you want to make a commitment to the love and truth of God starting today, say, I want to be faithful to that, to know that I'm going to choose to align my preference, to align my opinion, and submit it underneath the authority of God, to say, God, I'm submitting to you. I'm laying aside what I think is right and saying, I agree with what you say is right today. Then I want to pray for you. If that's you, you can go and raise your hands today. I want to pray over you this morning. The second is going to be for those people. You can put your hands down. Thank you. The second is for those of us who have said, I've been faithful. But you know what? It gets hard. Making the right decision is the best choice, but is not the easiest choice. It is easy sometimes, but most of the time it's the hard decision. And today, there are some of us who have been faithful for a long time. We've had a life of commitment to our partners, to our families, to our jobs, and to God, and to the life that He's given us. But maybe we just need a little strength. Today, if you would like God to give you the strength to continue to remain, the refreshing of His Spirit that pours over us and makes us new, then I'd love for you to raise your hands. And everyone raise your hands. I want to pray over you today. God, I pray that at this moment, we make the first decision in a lifetime of faithfulness. That because of your word that John wrote in this letter to the church, that the seed of faithfulness would begin to grow into a tree and produce the fruit of a life committed to you. God, that our relationships would begin to heal and grow. That the provision that you have stored in heaven would begin to be released because of the decisions of faithfulness that's made today. And God, for everyone who has been there and is just feeling tired and worn down, I pray that your Spirit would come and bring life and freshness. That you would restore their souls today. That they would have the strength to continue to be faithful. In the name of Jesus, amen.